The council chamber floated in the darkness of space. It was a massive station that orbited two bright suns. Inside the chamber, creatures from 47 different worlds sat in their assigned seats. Some had scales, some had fur, others were made of crystal, or existed as clouds of glowing gas. They were the Galactic Council, and they had ruled the known universe for 10,000 years. High Archon Valteris stood at the center of the chamber. His crystalline body caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. He had 6 arms and each one moved with precise grace. He was speaking about a signal that had been detected from a distant corner of space. Another primitive species sending noise into the void, Valteris said. His voice rang like bells. They call themselves humans. Their signals are crude. They barely left their own planet. They are nothing to concern ourselves with. The other council members made sounds of agreement. Some laughed. The idea that these primitives could matter to the council was amusing to them. They had seen thousands of species rise and fall. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. What was one more backward planet? But then Elder Voron stood up. He was old, even by the standards of his species. The Vorkai lived for thousands of years, and Voron had seen more than most. His body was thin and bent, but his eyes were sharp. When he spoke, the chamber fell silent. "You should listen to the old warnings," Voron said. His voice was quiet but firm. "My ancestors encountered them once, long ago. We called them the endurance species. They do not know how to surrender. They adapt faster than any species we have ever seen. They turn their weaknesses into weapons. We left their world alone and marked it with a warning beacon." Valteris made a sound like breaking glass. It was laughter. "A fairy tale from ancient times," he said. "These humans have primitive rockets and basic computers. They fight among themselves. They poison their own planet. What threat could they possibly pose to us?" Other council members joined in the laughter. Councillor Graxmore, who spoke for a species that shared one mind across millions of bodies, clicked his mandibles. "The Vorkai have always been superstitious," he said. "These humans are Class 7 at best, barely capable of leaving their own moon. We should simply take what resources their system offers and move on." Elder Voron sat down slowly. He looked tired and sad. He had tried to warn them, but they would not listen. They never did. The young species always thought they knew better than the old ones. The council voted. They decided to send one scout ship to the human system. It would assess the resources available and establish dominance over the primitives. The scout ship would make contact and inform the humans of their new place in the galactic order. It was standard procedure. It had worked on every other species they had encountered. Far away from the council chamber on a small blue planet, Commander Park Jiho walked through the hangar. He wore the uniform of the Earth Defense Force. At 34 years old, he was one of the best pilots humanity had ever produced. Today was the most important day of his life. The Horizon sat in the center of the hangar. It was Earth's first true interstellar vessel. Humanity had spent 20 years building it. Every nation on Earth had contributed resources. It represented the best of what humans could achieve when they worked together. Dr. Kim Hana joined Jiho at the observation window. She was 29, a xenobiologist who specialized in theoretical alien life. She had spent her entire career preparing for the possibility of first contact. Her hands trembled slightly as she looked at the ship. "Do you think we will find anyone out there?" she asked. Jiho smiled. "We detected those strange energy readings beyond Neptune. Something is out there. Whether it is friendly or not, we will find out soon enough." Captain Lee Daeho, at 41, the oldest member of the crew, walked up behind them. He was a calm man who had commanded naval vessels before joining the space program. "The crew is ready," he said. 200 of Earth's finest. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, doctors. If there is life out there, we are prepared to meet it. Choi Minji, the communications officer, was already aboard the Horizon running final checks. At 26, she was the youngest senior officer. She spoke 12 languages and had helped design the ship's universal translation systems. If they met aliens, she would be the one to figure out how to talk to them. The launch was smooth. Earth's governments watched from their capitals. Billions of people watched on their screens. Humanity was finally reaching out to the stars, not as divided nations but as one species. It was a moment of pure hope. The Horizon traveled for 3 weeks. Its engines were new, faster than anything humans had built before, but still slow compared to what waited for them. The crew conducted experiments. They studied the strange energy readings. They talked about what they might find. Then, near the asteroid belt, their sensors picked up something impossible. A ship. It was enormous, larger than anything humans had ever built. Its hull was made of a crystalline material that seemed to shift colors. It appeared from nowhere, as if space itself had opened up and let it through. Captain Lee Daeho ordered the crew to stations. Dr. Kim Hana started recording everything. Commander Park Ji-ho prepared the security teams. Choi Min-ji opened all communication channels and began broadcasting greetings in every language she knew, plus mathematical sequences that any intelligent species should understand. The alien ship responded. The message was translated automatically into English, which should have been impossible. The voice that spoke was cold and dismissive. Primitive vessel, you are now subjects of the Velthian Empire. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in the destruction of your ship and the classification of your species as hostile. You have one of your time units to comply. The bridge fell silent. This was not the first contact humanity had dreamed of. This was not peaceful exploration. This was a threat. An ultimatum. Captain Lee Daeho looked at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, but also anger. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people waiting for news. He thought about everything humanity had overcome to get here. Send a response, he said to Choi Min-ji. Tell them we are peaceful explorers. Tell them we need time to consult with our government. Ask for a diplomatic meeting. The alien response was immediate. Weapons fire. Not to destroy but to disable. The Horizon's communication array exploded. Secondary systems failed. The ship went dark except for emergency power. Sub-Commander Kreltis, who commanded the Velthian scout ship, made a sound of satisfaction. These primitives had questioned his authority. They had asked for time as if they had any choice in the matter. He had shown them the price of hesitation. Now they would learn their place. The Velthians boarded the Horizon easily. The human ship had no real defenses. Its weapons were designed for destroying asteroids, not fighting other vessels. Commander Park Ji-ho and his security team tried to resist, but they were overwhelmed by superior technology. Stun weapons dropped them before they could fire a shot. Dr. Kim Hana managed to do one thing before she was captured. She launched an emergency beacon. It was small, barely more than a radio transmitter, but it contained everything they had recorded. The beacon slipped away from the ship, heading back toward Earth on conventional engines. It would take months to arrive, but it would arrive. The 200 humans were herded into the cargo hold of the Velthian ship. Sub-Commander Kreltis looked at them with something like pity. They were so primitive. They did not even have proper spacesuits. Their bodies were soft and weak. They would break easily under questioning, but Commander Park Ji-ho was already observing. Already planning. He watched the guards. He noted their patterns. He saw how the Velthians moved with practiced efficiency, but no creativity. Everything they did followed a protocol. They could not adapt when something unexpected happened. The Horizon was left drifting, its crew gone, its mission failed. The Velthian ship engaged its faster-than-light drive and disappeared, heading toward the council stations with its cargo of primitive captives. On Earth, people waited for news. Days turned into weeks. The Horizon did not report back. Some hoped for a miracle. Others began to mourn, but none of them knew the truth yet. Humanity had just been declared a hostile species by a galactic empire they did not know existed. Their first contact had been an act of war. And somewhere in the depths of space, 200 humans were learning what it meant to be considered primitive by those who thought they ruled the stars. In the council chamber, Elder Voron sat alone after the session ended. He looked out at the twin suns and remembered the old warnings. He remembered the stories passed down through generations of his people. The humans did not know it yet, but they had just done something no other species had done in 10,000 years. They had resisted. And resistance was the one thing the Galactic Council could not tolerate. The one thing they did not know how to handle when it came from a species that refused to stay broken. The old Vorkai closed his eyes. The warnings had been ignored. The endurance species had been awakened. And now the galaxy would learn what his ancestors had learned millions of years ago. Some species do not know how to surrender. Some species only know how to survive. The cell was cold and dark. Commander Park Ji-ho sat with his back against the wall. Around him, the other prisoners from the Horizon tried to stay calm. Some cried quietly, others stared at nothing. They had been traveling on the alien ship for 2 months now. 2 months of questions. 2 months of tests. 2 months of learning they were not alone in the universe and that the universe was not kind. The Velthians had tried to break them. They used machines that sent pain directly into the nervous system. They used drugs that were supposed to make people tell the truth. They used isolation and bright lights and sounds that never stopped. But something strange happened. The machines did not work the way they should. The drugs made humans sick but did not control their minds. And the pain, terrible as it was, did not break them. Not the way it broke other species. Dr. Kim Hana had figured out why. She had spent her time studying the aliens whenever she could. She watched how they moved, how they reacted, how they thought, and she realized something important. Our brains are different, she whispered to Jiho one night. Their compliance technology is designed for species with fixed neural patterns. But human brains change constantly, we adapt. Their machines cannot lock onto something that keeps shifting. Jiho nodded. He had noticed other things too. The Velthian guards followed the same patterns every day. They came at the same times. They asked the same questions. They responded to problems in predictable ways. They were efficient, but they could not improvise. They are like machines themselves, he said. They follow their programming. If we do something unexpected, they freeze for a moment while they figure out what protocol to follow. In another part of the ship, Choi Minji was working on something remarkable. She had stolen small pieces of technology during the interrogations. A wire here, a circuit there. Piece by piece, she was building a communication device. It should have been impossible. The technology was centuries ahead of anything humans had. But Minji had always been good with languages, and she realized that technology was just another language. Patterns and logic. If you understood the pattern, you could use it. After 3 weeks of work, her device picked up alien transmissions. She listened to their communications. She learned their language not by translation, but by pure pattern recognition. The Velthians had assumed this would take years. She did it in weeks. Far away on Earth, the emergency beacon had arrived. The data it carried was terrifying. Earth's governments met in emergency sessions. For the first time in history, old enemies sat at the same table without fighting. The threat was too big for human conflicts to matter anymore. Admiral Kang Tae-hyun was put in charge of Earth's response. He was 55, a veteran of 3 wars. He had seen the worst of humanity and the best. Now he had to figure out how to fight an enemy with technology Earth could barely understand. We need ships, he told the assembled leaders. Fast ones. Armed ones. We need them yesterday. Dr. Yoon Seo-hyun thought she might have a solution. She was 38, one of Earth's best physicists. She had been studying the debris from the Horizon's destroyed communication array. That debris contained fragments of Velthian technology. Their faster-than-light drive uses a principle we theorized but never tested, she explained. They fold space instead of moving through it. We can do this. We have the math. We just need the resources. Every nation on Earth poured money and materials into the project. Factories that once made cars now made spacecraft parts. Scientists who once competed for grants now shared all their research freely. Humanity had united in a way that seemed impossible just months before. On the Velthian ship, the prisoners began to organize. Captain Lee Daeho moved among them, keeping their spirits up. He reminded them of their training. He told them stories of human history, of people who survived impossible situations. We are explorers, he said. Humans have always explored. We crossed oceans in wooden boats. We climbed the highest mountains. We went to the moon with computers less powerful than a phone. This is just another challenge. The Velthians decided the humans needed stronger measures. They reported to the Galactic Council that the primitives were unusually resistant. The Council authorized enhanced compliance technology. Pain induction that had broken every other species. When they used it on the humans, the Velthians expected immediate submission. Instead, they got something they had never seen before. The humans screamed, yes. They suffered. But they recovered. Fast. Faster than should have been possible. Dr. Kim Hana explained it to the others later. We evolved as persistence hunters. Our ancestors chased prey for days. We developed the ability to push through pain, to keep going when our bodies said stop. It is in our DNA. We are built to endure. Commander Park Ji-ho used the torture sessions to gather intelligence. Each time they took him deeper into the ship. Each time he memorized more of the layout. He noted where the weapons were stored. He watched how the airlocks worked. He studied the power systems. They think they are breaking us, he told his cellmates, but we are learning from them. Every session teaches us something new. Choi Minji's device finally connected to Earth. The signal was weak and brief, but it was enough. She sent coordinates. She sent data about the Velthian technology. Most importantly, she sent a message. They were alive, and they were coming to a council way station soon. On Earth, Admiral Kang Tae-hyun received the message. He looked at the coordinates and the timeline. It was impossible. They could not build enough ships fast enough to reach the way station in time. Dr. Yoon Seo-hyun disagreed. We can do it, she said. We will do it, because we are human, and humans do not abandon their people. The construction program was insane. 15 ships built in 4 months. They cut every corner they could. They skipped every test that was not absolutely necessary. The ships would not be perfect. Some might not survive the journey, but they would fly. Jang Minho was chosen to lead the fighter squadron. He was 31, the best pilot in the program after Park Ji-ho. He had trained in simulators based on the data from the horizon. He knew the odds were bad, but he also knew there was no choice. We go get our people, he said simply. That is all that matters. The Velthian ship finally arrived at the way station. It was massive, a trading hub that served thousands of vessels. The prisoners were scheduled to be processed and distributed to various parts of the empire. Some would become laborers. Others would be subjects for study. It was standard procedure, but Commander Park Ji-ho had other plans. He had spent 3 months learning everything he could about the ship and its crew. He knew the guard rotations down to the second. He knew which systems were critical and which were redundant. He knew where the blind spots in the security cameras were. When the ship docks for resupply, there will be a shift change, he explained to the others. For exactly 4 minutes, the guard stations will be understaffed. That is our window. That is when we move. Dr. Kim Hana had identified the weaknesses in Velthian physiology. Their crystalline structure is strong but brittle. A sharp impact at the right angle will shatter them. Aim for the joints, Captain Lee Daeho organized the crew. We do not leave anyone behind. We move as one group. We fight as one team. Understood? 200 voices answered as one. Understood. The humans had been prisoners for 3 months. They had been tortured and tested. They had been treated as primitives, as less than intelligent beings. The Velthians thought they had broken them. They were wrong. The humans had not been broken. They had been learning. They had been adapting. They had been planning, and now they were ready. On Earth, the fleet prepared to launch. 15 ships, crews who had trained for only weeks instead of years. Technology that had been tested in simulators but never in real space combat. It was desperate and dangerous. Admiral Kang Tae-hyun stood on the bridge of the lead ship. He thought about the people they were going to rescue. He thought about the aliens who had attacked without provocation. He thought about everything humanity had overcome in its history. All ships, this is Admiral Kang, he said into the communication system. Today we show the galaxy who we are. Today we show them that humans do not abandon their own. Today we show them why they should have listened to the warnings. The fleet engaged their faster-than-light drives. Space folded around them. They disappeared from Earth's solar system, heading toward a way station they had never seen. To fight enemies they barely understood. To save people they refused to abandon. Because that is what humans do. They endure, they adapt, and they never ever surrender. The way station was bigger than anything the humans had imagined. It stretched for miles in every direction, a city in space where thousands of ships came and went. Aliens of every shape and size walked its corridors. This was the heart of galactic civilization, and the humans were about to tear through it. The Velthian ship docked at exactly the time Commander Park Ji-ho had predicted. The guards began their shift change. For 4 minutes, the security would be weak. 4 minutes to escape a ship designed to hold them forever. Ji-ho gave the signal. The humans moved as one. They had been making weapons for weeks from materials they stole and hid. Sharp pieces of metal, makeshift clubs. Nothing sophisticated, but humans had been fighting with simple weapons for thousands of years. They knew how to make them count. The first guard did not even have time to sound an alarm. Nam Ji-hoon, Ji-ho's second-in-command, struck at the joint in the Velthian's crystalline structure. The alien shattered. The humans were through the first checkpoint in seconds. Alarms began to blare. The Velthians had never dealt with a prison break before. It simply did not happen. Species they captured stayed captured. They followed the rules. They accepted their fate. These humans were doing something impossible. Bae Hyunwoo, the engineer, reached a control panel. He had been watching the Velthians work these systems for months. His fingers flew over the alien interface. Doors locked behind the humans, trapping pursuing guards. Life support cut out in certain sections. The ship's own systems became weapons against its crew. Song Yuri, the medical officer, stayed close to the injured. When a human fell, she pulled them up. When someone was hurt, she gave them quick treatment and kept them moving. The humans had a rule from their military training: never leave anyone behind. It was a rule the Velthians did not understand. The firefight through the ship was brutal. The Velthians had better weapons, but the humans had desperation and creativity. They used the ship's layout against its defenders. They set traps. They feinted in one direction and attacked from another. Commander Park Ji-ho led from the front, moving like water around every obstacle. Dr. Kim Hana was not a soldier, but she fought anyway. She used her knowledge of alien biology to target weak points. She called out instructions to the others. Aim low. Their legs are their weakest point. Do not waste energy on body shots. They fought their way to the docking bay. There, Hana saw something that gave her hope. Not all the species on the way station were Velthian. Some looked afraid. Some looked angry. She recognized the signs of oppression. These were conquered peoples forced to serve the Empire. She approached one group carefully. They were Ketherans, she would learn later. They had fur-like earth animals and eyes that showed deep intelligence. Help us, she said, hoping they would understand the tone if not the words. Please, the Ketherans looked at each other. Then their leader made a decision. He pointed to a small cargo ship. That one, he said in broken but understandable language. Fast, go now. Captain Lee Dae-ho took the controls of the alien vessel. It was nothing like human ships, but the principles were the same. Thrust, navigation, life support. Bae Hyunwoo sat beside him, figuring out the alien interface as they went. The cargo ship blasted away from the Velthian vessel, just as more guards arrived. Weapons fire lit up space around them. But Dae-ho was a skilled pilot, and desperation made him better. He dodged and weaved through the way station's traffic, heading for open space. Choi Minji activated the communication system. She broadcast on all frequencies in the broken alien language she had learned. We are humans. We did not start this war, but we will finish it. Release us or learn why your elders feared us. The message reached the council chamber. Elder Vorin heard it and closed his eyes. Fools, he whispered. You awakened them. The endurance species do not surrender. They only know how to survive, adapt, and overcome. You showed them they could hurt you. Now they will never stop. High Archon Veltaris was furious. Primitives had escaped. They had killed Velthian guards. They had stolen a ship. This was an insult that could not stand. He ordered the way station locked down. He sent 50 warships to hunt down the humans. It was overwhelming force meant to crush them completely, but the council had made a mistake. They had given the humans time. Time for Earth's fleet to arrive. Admiral Kang Tae-hyun's fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the way station's sensor range. 15 ships against thousands. Primitive technology against an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years. The odds were impossible. Kang smiled grimly. Humans had always been good at doing impossible things. All ships begin approach, he ordered. Remember, we are not here to win. We are here to get our people and get out. Speed and chaos. Make them afraid. On the stolen cargo ship, Commander Park Ji-ho picked up the signal from the Earth fleet. He could not believe what he was hearing. Horizon Actual, this is Earth Defense Force Alpha Fleet. We are here to bring you home. Every human on that cargo ship felt the same thing in that moment. They were not alone. Earth had come for them, all of them. Their planet had built a fleet and crossed the stars to save 200 people. The battle began with human ships striking fast and hard. They did not fight fair. They used tactics the aliens had never seen. They rammed ships when their weapons failed. They used debris as weapons. They coordinated in ways that seemed random but were carefully planned chaos. Jang Min-ho led his fighter squadron through the alien formations. His ship was smaller and weaker than theirs, but he was faster and more creative. He led 3 enemy ships into each other. He used the way station's structure as cover. He fought like his ancestors had fought in the skies over Earth, with courage and skill against superior numbers. The Velthians had never experienced this kind of fighting. They were used to overwhelming force leading to quick surrender. But these humans did not surrender. When their ships were damaged, they kept fighting. When their weapons were gone, they used their ships as weapons. It was terrifying. Admiral Kang Taehyun's flagship was hit. Systems failed across the ship. He knew they were done, but he also knew they were close to the cargo ship with the Horizon survivors. Close enough. All hands abandon ship, he ordered. Then to himself, except me. He aimed his dying ship at the largest Velthian dreadnought and fired all remaining engines. The crew evacuated in escape pods. Kang stayed at the controls, adjusting course until the last second. His ship hit the dreadnought at full speed and detonated its reactor. The explosion took out 3 alien ships. It created a gap in their formation. The human fleet poured through that gap, heading for the cargo ship. Captain Lee Dae-ho brought the cargo ship alongside the nearest human vessel. The Horizon survivors transferred quickly. Some of them were crying. Some were laughing. All of them were grateful to be with their own people again. Commander Park Ji-ho was the last to transfer. Before he left the cargo ship, he activated one final transmission to the Council. His voice was calm and cold. You wanted to see what humans are capable of. This was just first contact. This was us being surprised and unprepared. Imagine what we will do when we are ready. Imagine what we will do when we are angry. The human fleet engaged their faster-than-light drives. One by one, they disappeared from normal space. Half of them had been destroyed. Thousands of humans had died, but they had achieved their goal. They had rescued their people. The way station burned behind them. The Velthians tried to organize a pursuit, but they were too shocked, too confused. No one had ever fought them like this. No one had ever paid such a terrible price and still claimed victory. In the council chamber, the emergency session was chaos. Species that had been allies for centuries were arguing. Some wanted to exterminate humanity immediately. Others wanted to understand what had gone wrong. A few, very few, suggested peace. Elder Voron spoke one more time. I warned you. The endurance species cannot be conquered. They can only be destroyed. And destroying them will cost you more than you can imagine. They have tasted your blood now. They know you can be hurt. They will never stop coming. High Archon Veltaris would not listen. He was already planning. The humans had humiliated the Empire. They had shown other subjugated species that resistance was possible. This could not stand. He would gather an armada. He would go to Earth itself. He would end this problem permanently, but he did not understand what he had done. He had attacked humanity when they were weak and unprepared. Now he had given them time to prepare. He had given them a reason to unite. He had given them an enemy. And humanity, once united and angry, was the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Earth had changed. 6 months after the battle at the way station, the planet was no longer divided by borders and old conflicts. Every factory, every shipyard, every resource was dedicated to one purpose: survival. The skies above Earth were filled with construction. Defense platforms circled the planet like a metal ring. Weapons that had only existed in theory were now reality. Mines drifted in carefully planned fields around the moon. The asteroid belt had been turned into a fortress. Colonel Park Ji-ho, promoted after the rescue mission, trained a new kind of soldier. Not armies meant to fight other armies, but small teams designed to cause maximum chaos. If Earth could not match the Council's military power, they would make fighting Earth too expensive to be worth it. We are outnumbered, he told his trainees. We are outgunned. But we have something they do not. We have the will to do whatever it takes. We will hit their supply lines. We will destroy their infrastructure. We will make them afraid to sleep. Dr. Kim Hana had become Earth's chief expert on alien biology. She had dissected the Velthian bodies recovered from the battle. She had studied their weaknesses. Now she worked with weapons designers to create tools specifically meant to hurt them. Their crystalline structure resonates at specific frequencies, she explained. We can build sonic weapons that will shatter them. The Threxians have a hive mind that depends on their queens. Kill the queen, and thousands of their soldiers become confused and helpless. Admiral Lee Dae-ho commanded the Second Fleet. It had grown to 300 ships. They were still weaker than Council vessels, but they were improving fast. Humans learned quickly when their survival depended on it. Choi Minji headed the Alien Relations Division. Her job was to broadcast messages to every world the Council controlled. The message was simple and powerful. Humanity stood alone and fought. You do not have to stay enslaved. Join us, the message worked. The Kethrans who had helped the humans escape started a rebellion on 17 worlds. Other species saw what was happening and remembered their own dreams of freedom. The Morphians rose up. The Delcari refused to work. Across the Empire, the oppressed finally had hope. The Galactic Council was in crisis. High Archon Veltaris demanded total war. We must exterminate the humans before they spread this infection further, he said. Every day we wait, more species rebel. Elder Voron argued for peace. You cannot win this war, he said. Humans do not surrender. You can only destroy them, and to do that will cost billions of lives. Is your pride worth that price? The Council voted for a middle path. They would send an overwhelming armada to Earth. 5,000 warships, planet killer weapons held in reserve. They would force humanity to surrender. Surely seeing such power, even humans would realize resistance was futile. They still did not understand. Humans did not think like other species. When humans saw impossible odds, they did not surrender. They got creative. Dr. Yoon Seo-hyun had been working on something desperate. She called it the Prometheus Protocol. We can destabilize the sun's magnetic fields, she explained to the military command. Create a directed coronal mass ejection. It will release an electromagnetic pulse that will fry every unshielded system in the solar system. Including ours? Someone asked. We will shield our ships, Yoon said. Theirs are not designed for this kind of attack. They never considered that someone would use a star as a weapon. It was risky. It might destroy Earth's own infrastructure. It might even damage the planet itself. But it gave them a chance. And humans would take any chance rather than surrender. Shin Nari led a special operations team deep into Council space. She was 27, trained in languages and infiltration. Her team's mission was simple: cause chaos, delay the armada, make them afraid. They hit fuel depots. They poisoned water supplies with compounds humans were immune to, but aliens were not. They sabotaged ships while they were being built. They moved like ghosts, appearing and disappearing before the Council could respond. The team used human endurance as their weapon. They could go days without sleep. They could function in conditions that would kill most Council species. They used pain and exhaustion as tools, not obstacles, but even with all the delays, the armada came. 5,000 ships, the largest military force the Council had ever assembled. High Archon Veltaris commanded them personally. He wanted to see the humans broken. He wanted them to beg for mercy. The armada arrived at the Sol system expecting defenses. They expected a fight. What they found was silence. No transmissions. No visible fleet. Just the small blue planet floating quietly in the darkness. Veltaris suspected a trap, but he was too arrogant to care. All ships advance, he ordered. Charge weapons. We will break their spirit with one demonstration strike. The armada moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons powered up. And then Colonel Park Ji-ho, commanding the hidden defense platforms in the asteroid belt, gave a simple order. Light them up. Thousands of mines activated. Missiles launched from hidden positions. Kinetic weapons, simple chunks of metal moving at incredible speeds, tore through the Council vanguard. The aliens had been looking for sophisticated defenses. They did not expect humans to throw rocks. Admiral Lee Daeho's fleet emerged from behind the moon. They hit the armada's flank hard. Human ships were smaller and weaker, but they moved with coordinated precision. They had practiced this. They had planned every move. The battle raged for 18 hours. It was brutal and terrible. Human pilots flew until their ships were destroyed, then ejected and fought on with whatever weapons they could find. Ships with dead crews continued fighting on automated systems. Every human knew this was the final battle. They would win or they would die. Kwon Jisoo, flying an experimental fighter, took down 7 enemy ships before her vessel was hit. She ejected, but not toward safety. She aimed her pod at an enemy command ship and detonated it manually. She died, but she took 300 aliens with her. The Council ships were better individually, but they had never fought an enemy this desperate, this willing to sacrifice. Their tactics assumed rational opponents who valued survival. Humans fighting for their world were not rational. When the Council forces broke through Earth's outer defenses, Dr. Yoon Seo-hyun activated the Prometheus Protocol. Deep in the sun, carefully placed devices triggered massive magnetic disruptions. The star's surface erupted. A wave of electromagnetic energy washed over the battlefield. Council ships went dark as their systems fried. Human ships, heavily shielded and prepared, survived. For a brief moment, the most powerful armada in galactic history was helpless. The human fleet did not hesitate. They moved through the disabled ships, destroying them methodically. It was not honorable. It was not fair. But humans had never promised to fight fair. High Archon Veltaris watched from his disabled flagship. He finally understood what Elder Voron had tried to tell them. Humans did not fight to win battles. They fought to survive, and survival had no rules. He opened a communication channel to the human fleet. His voice was broken, defeated. "We surrender, please, no more." Admiral Lee Deho received the message. He looked around his bridge at the exhausted crew. He thought about the thousands who had died. He thought about Earth, battered but still alive below them. "Cease fire," he ordered. "Accept their surrender." The battle was over. Earth had won, but the cost was terrible. A third of the human fleet was destroyed, 50,000 people dead. Parts of the orbital infrastructure were gone. The planet would bear scars for generations, but Earth was still free. Humanity had faced an empire that ruled for 10,000 years and refused to bow. They had paid a price that would have broken any other species, and they had won. Across Council space, the rebellions intensified. Every oppressed species had watched the battle. They had seen the impossible happen. If humans could defeat the Council, maybe they could too. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. For the first time in their long history, they had been defeated in open combat. Species that had been loyal for centuries were questioning their authority. The Empire was crumbling. Elder Voron looked at his fellow council members with sad eyes. "I told you," he said quietly. "I told you they were unstoppable. Not because they are strong, not because they are smart, but because they refuse to accept defeat. That is what makes them dangerous. That is what you should have feared." The Council had one choice left: peace. They would have to negotiate with humanity. They would have to recognize them as equals. It was unthinkable. It was necessary. And humanity, bloodied but unbroken, prepared to reshape the galaxy. 1 year after the Battle of Sol, the galaxy was a different place. The Galactic Council had collapsed under the weight of dozens of rebellions. Species that had been slaves for thousands of years were finally free. And in the ruins of the old empire, something new was being born. Ambassador Kim Hana stood before the representatives of 200 species. They had gathered on a neutral station to discuss the future. Some wanted revenge against their former masters. Others wanted guarantees that no new empire would replace the old one. All of them were afraid that humanity, having defeated the Council, would become the new tyrants. Hana understood their fear. She had spent months preparing for this moment. "We did not fight to replace one empire with another," she said. Her voice was calm but firm. "We fought so every species could choose its own path. We propose a federation based on voluntary membership. No species is forced to join. No species is forced to stay. And no single species can dominate the others." The representatives talked among themselves. It sounded too good to be true. In their experience, the strong always dominated the weak. That was how the universe worked. But humanity was proving them wrong. General Park Ji-ho commanded the Terran Defense Coalition, a military force of humans and allied species. Their mission was not conquest but peacekeeping. They protected trade routes from pirates. They stopped genocides before they could start. They made sure no new empire rose from the ashes. It was hard work. Humans took casualties protecting species they had never met. But Ji-ho remembered what it felt like to be helpless against a superior force. He would not let others feel that way if he could prevent it. Grand Admiral Lee Deho led the liberation fleets. Some Council remnants still held territory, still oppressed their subjects. Deho's mission was to free those worlds. Each battle was different. Each required new tactics. But humans were good at adapting. The combined fleet became a symbol. Humans, Catherines, Morphians, and dozens of other species working together. They were stronger united than any empire had been through force. Choi Minji's Interspecies Communication Bureau became the foundation of peace. She developed translation systems that let any species talk to any other. She organized cultural exchanges. She helped species that had been enemies for centuries find common ground. Elder Voron became an advisor to humanity. He was old and tired, but he wanted to help build what came next. One day he revealed the truth about the ancient warnings. "My people encountered yours millions of years ago," he told Ambassador Hana. You were not even fully evolved yet. But even then you were dangerous. A Vorkai expedition tried to study your ancestors. They barely escaped. We left a warning beacon on your world. Endurance species do not disturb. The council found the beacon, Vorin continued, but they thought it was superstition. They did not understand what made you dangerous. Your world is a death world. Everything there tried to kill you. You learned to outlast predators. You learned to survive conditions that would kill any council species. You are not stronger than us. You are more stubborn. And stubbornness wins in the end. Hana smiled sadly. We paid a terrible price for our stubbornness. But you survived, Vorin said. And now you are teaching the rest of us how to survive, too. The trial of High Archon Veltaris became a defining moment. Many wanted him executed for his crimes. General Park Jiho testified about the torture and deaths. The evidence was overwhelming, but Ambassador Hana argued for a different punishment. If we execute him, we are just another empire dispensing victor's justice, she said. Let him live. Let him see the galaxy we build, one where his kind of tyranny is impossible. That is true justice. Veltaris was sentenced to life in prison, but more than that, he was forced to watch. Every day he saw reports of the new Federation. Every day he saw species he considered inferior, building something better than his empire ever was. It was a uniquely human punishment, and it was perfect. The first interspecies summit almost failed a dozen times. Ancient grudges threatened to tear apart the fragile peace. Species argued about borders, resources, and old crimes. Several times representatives walked out. But then they would look at humanity, this young, stubborn species that somehow held everything together, and they would remember why they were there. If humans could forgive their attackers and build peace, surely others could do the same. Ambassador Hana gave the closing speech. Every species here has suffered, she said. Every species has lost people in wars they did not choose. But we all survived. That is what connects us. Not our differences, but our shared refusal to give up. The Council thought they could break us. They were wrong. Not because any of us is special alone, but because together we are unstoppable. The new Federation Charter was signed by all 200 species. It was not perfect. It had compromises and loopholes. But it was voluntary. No one was forced. That made it stronger than any empire. Humanity took on a unique role. They refused to be leaders, but they became guarantors. Earth's military made sure no species could dominate others. It was a heavy burden. Humans continued to take casualties protecting strangers, but they remembered what it felt like to face extinction alone, and they would not let others face it. Years passed. The Federation grew stronger. Trade flourished. Art and science were shared freely. Species learned from each other in ways the Council had never allowed. General Park Jiho eventually retired. He went back to Korea, to a small farm in the mountains. He was tired of war. He wanted peace. A young Kethrin child orphaned by the wars came to live with him. One day the child asked, "Were you scared during the battles?" Jiho smiled, terrified. Every single time. But I learned something important. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is continuing despite fear. That is what makes us who we are. Human, Kethrin, or any free being. Admiral Lee Daeho commissioned a memorial on Earth's moon. It was visible from orbit. It listed every human who died in the conflict. It also listed every alien who fought alongside them for freedom. The inscription was simple. They refused to submit. We refuse to forget. Ambassador Kim Hana stood before the Federation Assembly one day when a delegate asked a question. Why did humans fight so hard for us? You did not know us. We were not your people. Hana's answer became famous across the galaxy. We fought for you because we knew what it felt like to be told we did not matter. Because we remembered when the galaxy ignored our calls for help. Because we understood that oppression anywhere threatens freedom everywhere. But mostly we fought for you because we are human. And humans are stubborn that way. We do not abandon people. We persist, we endure, and we refuse to let the universe tell us what is impossible. The Galactic Council had been right about one thing. Humans were unstoppable. They just never understood that this trait could be the foundation of peace rather than conquest. 50 years after the wars ended, Elder Vor-An lay dying. He was ancient even by Vorkai standards. Around his bed stood representatives from across the Federation, including a young human diplomat who was the granddaughter of Commander Park Jiho. Boran spoke his final words to her. "We warned the Council about your species," he said. "We told them humans were dangerous, unstoppable, terrifying. We were right. But we were wrong about what made you dangerous. It was not your violence or your weapons or your tactics. It was your hope. Your refusal to believe anything is truly impossible. Your insistence that every being deserves freedom. That is what made you unstoppable. Not your ability to destroy, but your determination to build." The old Vorkai closed his eyes for the last time. He died content, knowing that the warnings of the past had prepared for the wrong future. The elders feared humanity would become conquerors. Instead, humanity became something better. They became liberators, teachers, and friends to a galaxy that had forgotten what friendship meant. The story of humanity's rise was taught on every Federation world, not as a tale of military triumph, but as a reminder. Freedom is never given, only taken. Justice is never inevitable, only fought for. And progress requires the most human trait of all, the stubborn, unreasonable, unstoppable belief that tomorrow can be better than today. The galaxy had learned its lesson. The elders had warned them. They had not listened, and in their arrogance they had awakened something they could not control. But what they awakened was not a conqueror. It was hope. It was the idea that anyone, no matter how weak or primitive, could stand up and refuse to bow. That idea spread faster than any weapon. It toppled an empire, and it built something better in its place. In the end, the humans did exactly what the elders feared. They changed everything. They just did it in a way no one expected. They gave the galaxy something worth fighting for. They gave it freedom, and once given, freedom can never be taken back. That was the true power of humanity. Not that they could not be stopped, but that once they started fighting for something they believed in, they inspired everyone around them to do the same. The elders had warned, humans are unstoppable. They were right. The galaxy just had not understood what that truly meant. It did not mean humans would destroy everything. It meant they would never stop fighting for what was right. Never stop hoping. Never stop believing that a better tomorrow was possible. And in a galaxy that had forgotten hope, that made all the difference. The end.